Hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's immersive journey into the heart of feudal Japan. As the comforting crackle of the fire fills the air, we leave behind the noise and distractions of the modern world, stepping back in time to a land where survival was never guaranteed and every step was weighed with the burden of war. Imagine yourself standing in the middle of the 16th century, the air thick with the scent of burning wood and the ever-present hum of conflict. You stand on the edge of a world where warlords rise and fall, and where every warrior's fate hangs by a thread. Before we begin, if you enjoy this immersive escape into history, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's always incredible to see how far these stories reach. Now, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and let the modern world slip away as we journey to a time of blood and honor, where the samurai code shaped every action and the edge of a sword determined life or death. Tonight, we walk the path of a samurai, from the dirt of the fields to the sword of the warrior. This is your fight, and it begins now. You were born into dirt, not just the soil beneath your feet, but the kind of dirt that clings to your skin, your bones, your very soul. The year is 1570, and Owari, where you've spent your entire life, is a province of hardship, with lands rich in rice but poor in hope. The same hands that toil in the mud are the ones that are expected to bow, not to the earth, but to the samurai who stroll past your village with their daisho swinging at their sides. Those blades, symbols of honor and privilege. Honor? Please. Your father, like so many others, is a mere ashigaru, a foot soldier, the lowest of the low, a man who knows how to march to die and to serve the whims of a lord who wouldn't spare him a second thought. And yet, he wears his armor with pride. For the honor of our family, he tells you, though you can already hear the bitterness in his voice, like he's trying to convince himself more than you. So, what does it mean to serve a samurai? Well, to start, it means working the fields until your hands are raw and your back is broken, all while those very samurai demand tribute, forcing your family into poverty with every passing year. Every coin they take, every load they demand, just another reminder of your place in this world. And yet, your father believes in something more. He believes in honor, in duty. But you? You watch him, standing tall, a proud ashigaru, as he prepares for another campaign. It's laughable, really. Honor, you think? Honor is a word used by the rich to make themselves feel better as they watch the rest of us struggle to breathe. Your father's loyalty might be ironclad, but you already know that in this world loyalty is a luxury few can afford. You often wonder how long it will be before he's sent off to fight, never to return. War is all around you, after all. The Sengoku period, a time of constant warfare, lords fighting for power, samurai bashing their katanas against one another, while the ashigaru are sent to die in the mud, fighting someone else's war for a cause that might never be realized. Your world is small, limited to the dirt, the sweat, the endless cycle of work and war. And yet, inside of you, a fire stirs. You're young, yes, but already the taste of something else is on your tongue. You want more. You dream of the sword, the honor that those samurai speak of, the kind that might, just maybe, be worth dying for. But not for them, for yourself. Maybe one day, you mutter under your breath, I'll be more than just another ashigaru. But for now, you watch your father tighten his armor, preparing to leave for another bloody conflict, his face grim with a resignation you can barely understand. You don't say goodbye. It's pointless. In this world, nothing lasts, especially not loyalty. The world outside your village is nothing like the one they sell you in stores. It's a place of violence where men are tested not by the strength of their honor, but by the sharpness of their blade. And you? Well, you're just a kid with dreams of swords, of honor, of something better. But first, you'll need to survive the mud. You're just 5 years old, but you already know what war smells like. It's the thick, acrid scent of smoke, mingled with the sharp tang of blood and the bitter taste that fills your mouth when you realize there's nothing you can do about it. It wasn't supposed to reach you, at least not this soon. Your world was meant to be dirt and sweat, not the sound of cannon fire and men dying in the fields. But here it is. The year is 1575, and the infamous Battle of Nagashino is upon you. It starts as a distant murmur, a hum in the air, like the earth itself is shuddering in fear. And then the noise, the crack of firearms that sound nothing like the clang of katana or the thundering of hooves. This is different. It's terrifying. The air is pierced by a sound that you can't quite place, but you know it's the sound of death. Bang, bang, bang. It's like thunder, except thunder doesn't kill. Your father, your hero, is off with his lord, fighting in that very battle. You can't understand much, but you understand one thing. When war comes, the men leave and the rest of the world is left to rot. You're just a kid, but you know enough to realize this is no simple skirmish. This is something big, something that could change everything. The news comes to your village like a cold gust of wind. The samurai didn't win. They never win, at least not the ones you know. The gunfire from the enemy's troops had mowed down men in ways no sword ever could. Firearms. You'd never seen them before, but now you know they are something new, something deadly, something that could tear your world apart. Your father doesn't come back. He's one of the ones lost to the smoke, to the honor of a war that never asked for his name. He didn't get to die on his feet, sword in hand, surrounded by enemies worthy of his blade. No, he died because someone else decided his life was worth nothing. Is this what Bushido is, you think? Standing alone in the fields, the wind carrying the mournful sounds of men and their dying dreams. Die for someone who doesn't even know your name? You think back to everything he ever said, his noble words about honor, about loyalty, about dying for your lord, and suddenly it feels like a joke. Maybe it was a joke all along. Honor, you mutter bitterly to yourself, staring at the sky, trying to hold back tears. Honor didn't keep him alive. Honor didn't bring him home. Your village falls into a tense silence. The men are gone. The women and children wait, holding their breath, hoping their loved ones return, but knowing, deep down, that they might not. The sword, the armor, the samurai, those things were supposed to represent strength, but now they just seem like symbols of a broken promise. You're still just a kid, too young to fully grasp the weight of what's happened, but you know enough to understand that everything has changed. You won't be the same after this, not when you've seen the truth behind the pretty words of Bushido. You start to wonder, maybe survival, not honor, is the only thing worth fighting for. And so, as the smoke clears over the battlefield of Nagashino, something else settles in your heart, a cold, hard truth that no amount of blood or sacrifice can erase. If this is honor, I want no part of it. At just 8 years old, you've already learned that survival is a skill, not a gift. It's the bitter truth you're forced to accept when you're dragged from the ruins of your village and thrown into the service of a local samurai lord. No ceremony, no choice. Just a cold, hard reality. You're now a servant, one more cog in a wheel that's grinding you down to nothing. You've got nothing left to lose. Your father's gone. Your mother's gone. Your home, reduced to smouldering ashes. And now you're here, in the courtyard of a samurai lord's castle, an insignificant child, barely old enough to understand the complex politics of this cruel world, but old enough to know that your life will never be the same. The samurai here, these so-called warriors, strut around with their daisho at their sides, eyes full of pride, as if their swords make them gods. You've seen it, how they hold themselves, how they talk about honor and duty, like it's something you can wear like a cloak. You're no fool. You know that to survive, you'll need to play the game. And for now, that means being useful. You become a shadow in the halls of the castle, doing menial tasks, polishing armor, sweeping floors, carrying food, doing everything the masters tell you. And yet, you can't shake the feeling that you were born for more. Born to be more than some servant. But that's the way it is, isn't it? born into poverty, born into nothing, while they, those honourable men, are born with the world at their feet. You're sick of it, sick of hearing them talk about destiny and birthright while you're stuck in the dirt. They say, fate is decided by birth, you scoff under your breath. Well, screw that. There's a part of you that's too stubborn, too angry to let go of the dream of being more than just an ashigaru, more than just a servant. You've learned to slip away when no one's looking, sneaking off to the corners of the castle where the samurai practice. You don't know much, but you know a sword when you see one. And it's not hard to see that the samurai, despite all their talk of Bushido and glory, are just men. Men who can bleed, men who can fall. So you watch. From the shadows you watch their practice, the way their swords flash in the sunlight, the way their feet move, like they're dancing, like they're one with the blade. You don't have a sword, not yet, but you've got a bamboo stick. And that's enough for now. You practice in the dead of night, in the empty courtyard, swinging your stick in crude, unrefined strokes. You're clumsy at first, but you get better. You have to. Every swing, every step is a chance to prove to yourself that you can do this, that you will be more than what you were born into. Your muscles ache, your fingers bleed from the rough wood of the stick, but you don't stop. Because if there's one thing you've learned, it's this. The samurai were never born perfect. They were made. And you can make yourself into something they never saw coming. They say fate is decided by birth, you think again, a wry smile tugging at your lips. Well, we'll see about that. And so, in the shadows of the castle, beneath the watchful eyes of the samurai who will never notice you, you begin to forge your own path. A path that will lead you away from being just a servant, away from being just another casualty of birthright. It's not a grand destiny, but it's yours. And that's enough for now. The air is thick with smoke. It burns your lungs, your eyes, everything. You're just a child in a world of men's ambitions, but today, chaos has swallowed everything. The year is 1582, and you've heard the rumours, the whispers of rebellion, but nothing could prepare you for the sight you're about to witness. The great Oda Nobunaga, the man who seemed invincible, the warlord who promised to unify Japan, is betrayed. Betrayed by his own general. The sound of the betrayal is like thunder crashing through the night, loud, violent, and absolute. The Honnoji Incident. It's happening now. In the midst of the flames, the shrieks of men, and the sword clashes that you've only heard about in stories, you can barely make sense of it. You were sent to help the samurai in the castle. Help. But all you can do is run, dodge falling beams, and fight your way through the flames as everything unravels. The castle is burning. Men you once saw as gods are now nothing but ashes in the wind, and all you can do is watch. This wasn't supposed to happen. But then, you see him. A samurai, a man you don't know but who wears the marks of a warrior, fallen and bleeding. He's not dead yet, but he will be soon if you don't do something. He's lying there in the wreckage, his armour scorched, his sword nowhere in sight. You could leave him, walk away, and pretend you didn't see anything. It would be the smart thing to do. But you don't. Why? Maybe it's the fact that he's one of them, the people you've watched, the ones you've secretly envied. Or maybe it's just the fact that you've seen too much death today to let another man die without even trying to help. So, you drag him. Drag a samurai, a man who's bled for honour, a man who should have been the one to help you, out of the flames. You save his life, and in return, he teaches you something you'll never forget. You'll make a fine warrior one day, he says, his voice rough, his breath shallow. But first, you need to learn the blade, not just the dream. It's funny, isn't it? Here you are, just a servant, dragged into the heart of history, and now you're being taught kenjutsu by a man who should have been your enemy, who should have seen you as nothing but another footnote in the world of samurai and warlords. Yet here you are, sitting at his feet as he shows you the basics. How to hold a katana, how to move your body, how to strike. But it's not the moves you remember most. It's the look in his eyes, his desperation, the way he teaches you as if he knows deep down that this is his last lesson. "This is the way of the sword," he murmurs, his voice barely above a whisper. "It is as much about understanding death as it is about taking life." Your heart races. You're no longer just a servant. Not anymore. You're learning the very thing that might one day give you the power to change your fate. But there's no romanticism here, no glory. The blade is a tool for survival. It's a tool for killing, and yet it feels like more. It feels like you're starting to understand the truth behind the samurai's way of life. Honor, you think? Does it still mean anything when your life is spent on the edge of a blade, and all you've got left is the blood you spill for someone else's war? But you don't say it. You don't dare. Because even now, despite the blood, despite the death, there's something stirring inside you. The fire inside you is not just about survival anymore. It's about something more, something dangerous. You can't help it. That man, the samurai you saved, he's right. You will be a warrior. Maybe not for the lord you serve now, maybe not for the samurai you once envied, but for yourself. And with that, something changes. You're no longer just a shadow in the castle. You're starting to realize what it means to hold a sword, to fight, to live and die by it. The Honnoji Incident didn't just burn a castle, it burned away the last of your innocence. But it also forged something in you, something that can never be undone. You've made it. Sort of. In 1584, you're officially an ashigaru, the lowest rung of the military ladder, but still a rung. You've gone from a servant, a shadow in the background, to an actual soldier, at least in name. Under the banner of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, you've been thrown into a brutal new world where your life is worth about as much as the dirt under your feet. The training is savage. You thought you knew hard work. Nothing compares to the grind of being an ashigaru. The endless drills, the endless hours of marching, the constant sweating and aching muscles. You're treated like livestock, and yet, somehow, you're supposed to be proud of it. Every day is a battle, not against enemies, but against your own body, which feels like it might just give out at any moment. And when it does, they push you even harder. They've got you swinging a yari, stabbing it over and over again, until your arms burn, your hands blister, and your legs threaten to buckle beneath you. You're told this is for your honor, that one day the blood you spill will be for the glory of Hideyoshi. But, let's be real here. No one cares about your glory. You're just a pawn in someone else's game. The food? Oh, it's as bad as the training. If you're lucky, you get rice with a little bit of pickled vegetables. If you're unlucky, it's just the rice. You're constantly starving, always hungry, and constantly reminded that you're not a samurai. No, you're barely even human in their eyes. You're just a tool to be used, a body to throw into the meat grinder when the time comes. And yet, somehow, those real samurai, the ones with their shiny armor and katana, still find time to look down on you. Every glance from them cuts deeper than any blade could. They sneer at you, mock your lowly status, call you a kambing, a goat. You're not even worth their time, unless it's to order you around like some kind of trained dog. Go fetch this. Go hold that. Go die for me, they say, and you smile through gritted teeth, holding back the urge to scream. Die for honor, you mutter to yourself, sarcastic. Honor my ass. The truth? You're not dying for any lofty ideals, you're not fighting for glory. No, you're fighting because some rich guy at the top has decided that it's time to conquer more land, more power. You don't matter. Your life doesn't matter. You're not fighting for any noble cause. You're fighting for a man's ambition. Period. But you can't say that out loud, can you? Number, you have to keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, and keep swinging that yari, because that's the reality of being an ashigaru. You're a tool, and you serve at the whim of those above you. If they want you to die in a pointless battle, you die. If they want you to march into the fire, you march. If they want you to cheer and shout and pretend that dying for this is something noble, then you smile and do it. You might be a kambing, but you're a kambing who's beginning to see through the illusion. You've got enough anger, enough resentment, that it's starting to burn a hole through the suffocating walls of this reality. One day you tell yourself, Maybe one day, you won't be the one throwing your life away for someone else's power. One day, maybe you'll be the one calling the shots. But for now, you're stuck with the Yari, the mud, and the humiliation. And so, you fight. You fight because you have to. You fight because your body is too tired to do anything else. And you fight because somewhere deep down, there's a spark of defiance, a spark that whispers, you will be more than this. One day. But that day feels very far away as you stand there in the muck, swinging that Yari once again, wondering just how many more battles you'll have to endure before that spark can catch fire. The grind of training pales in comparison to the brutal baptism by fire that awaits you on the battlefield. The first battle. They don't warn you about it, how your body will betray you, how the smell of blood will cling to your skin long after the fight is over, how the weight of a Yari in your hands will feel less like a weapon and more like an anchor, pulling you deeper into the abyss of war. You're shaking. It's not a slow, steady tremor. No, it's the kind of shaking that comes from your very soul, rattling your bones. You've been trained, sure. You've swung the Yari over and over again until your arms felt like they might fall off. But none of that prepares you for the chaos. None of that prepares you for the first time you see a man die in front of you. The sound of battle is deafening. The screams, the clash of metal, the war cries that blur into a singular primal roar. You're in the middle of it now, your first real taste of war. No more drills, no more pretending. This is it. It's you or them, and there's no room for hesitation. Your grip tightens around the Yari, your fingers slick with sweat. The blade is cold, sharp and heavy, like a promise you never wanted to keep. You've been told to fight. You've been told that this is your duty. But none of that feels real now. Now, it's just survival. A figure charges at you. One of them. He's just a man. Just like you. Or at least, he was. You don't have time to wonder what his name was or what he was thinking before he came at you. You don't even have time to think about your own fear. All you can think about is the Yari in your hands and the man's face coming closer, the glint of his sword catching the sunlight. And then it happens. You lunge. You stab. There's a sickening thud as the Yari connects. The man stumbles, his life bleeding out onto the dirt. His eyes lock with yours, wide and shocked, as if he's seeing you for the first time. And in that moment you realize something you never truly understood before. This is the price of survival. This is what honor really costs. Not the glorious stories they tell of samurai who fight for their lords, but the raw, ugly truth of war. You are no hero. You're just a man trying to keep your own life from slipping away. Your heart is pounding. Your legs feel like they might give out. You feel sick, but you push it down. The battle rages on and you're still alive. For now. And then it happens again. The first time you see a friend, someone you've trained with, someone you've shared food with, someone you never thought would fall, go down. His body crumples in the dirt, a crimson stain spreading beneath him. His guts spill out, his life slipping away like sand through your fingers. And before you can even process it, he's just another casualty in a war that never stops, a war that doesn't care about your feelings, your honor, or your dreams. Bushido doesn't teach you this, you think bitterly, watching his blood stain the ground, mixing with the dirt beneath your boots. It doesn't teach you how it feels when your comrade's insides spill out, his life pouring onto the ground like some spilled drink, and you're left standing in the middle of it, wondering why the hell you're still alive. You stumble backward, feeling the weight of your actions settling in your chest like a stone. You did what you had to do. You killed him or you died. That's the rule of the battlefield. But no one told you it would feel this way. The warriors around you are still fighting, still dying. But something inside you has shifted. You've crossed the line now. There's no going back. The blood on your hands isn't just the blood of your enemies. It's the blood of your own innocence. So this is what honor feels like, you think, looking around at the chaos. A few moments of glory followed by a lifetime of regret, but you push the thought away. You don't have the luxury of regret here. Not when there's more blood to spill, more lives to take. Because in this world, in this battlefield, it's kill or be killed, and you're still breathing. For now. It's funny how life can change in an instant. How everything you thought you knew can be upended by a single chaotic moment. 1 second, you're just another nameless Ashigaru, sweating under the weight of your Yari, and the next, well, you're being dragged into something far beyond your station, far beyond anything you ever imagined. The battle is fierce, of course. The clamour of swords, the roar of men charging, the crackle of arrows cutting through the air. It's all as brutal and ugly as you'd expect. This is the real battlefield, not the training ground where you learn to swing a Yari and pretend that you're more than just fodder. Here, you're fighting for your life. Again. But then, something unexpected happens. In the middle of the fray, your eyes catch the sight of your commander, disoriented, vulnerable, his back exposed to a sudden attack. There's no time to think, no time to hesitate. You move instinctively, throwing yourself at the enemy, knocking one attacker off balance, shoving another aside, and grabbing your commander by the arm, pulling him out of the line of fire. You didn't plan this. You didn't want to get involved in someone else's fight. But there's something primal about saving a life in the chaos of war. The kind of life you're supposed to protect, even if that life means the difference between your own survival or death. And just like that, you've done it. You've saved a commander. The battle rages on, the fight doesn't stop, but in the midst of the madness, the higher-ups notice. They notice you. You never saw it coming. One moment, you're just another grunt, trying to stay alive, and the next thing you know, you're being pulled out of the muck and grime of your lowly Ashigaru status. You've saved a life that matters, and suddenly, you matter too. Your reward, a promotion, not to the high ranks of samurai, but to low-ranked samurai. A minor step up, yes, but a step up nonetheless. You're handed your very own daisho, the twin swords that mark you as a samurai, a warrior with a newfound status. But as you hold those swords in your hands, staring at the gleaming steel, a bitter thought lingers in the back of your mind. You look at the daisho and think about the cost of a year's worth of food for a poor farming family, a price that most people in your position would never see in their entire life. I'm a samurai now, you think, with more than a hint of sarcasm. Guess I'm worth a year's worth of rice. You try to smile, but it feels hollow. You've earned these swords, yes. But have you earned anything else? You still don't have honor, not the kind the samurai talk about. You still don't have control over your life. You still don't own your own destiny. But at least now, at least this badge of samurai, proves that you've survived long enough to be given a chance at something better. And yet, as you look down at the daisho, the weight of it feels like an anchor, a reminder that no matter how high you climb, no matter how many battles you win, you're still just another soldier in someone else's war, another pawn in a game of politics, a game of power that's been going on long before you and will keep going long after you're gone. Well, at least I've got a sword now, you think, gripping the hilt, the steel cold in your palm. And maybe that's all that matters. For now. But deep down, you know something. This is just the beginning. You've got the sword, but the real fight, the one that will determine if you'll ever truly rise, hasn't even started yet. With the daisho in your hands, the sword now marks your place in this world. But now you must learn that a true samurai is more than just a warrior. You never thought you'd be here. Sitting in a dimly lit room, staring at a bowl of tea, your hands folded neatly on your lap, as a calm, soft voice instructs you on the art of sipping. Yes, sipping. Not stabbing, not swinging your yari, not killing, but sipping tea like some kind of delicate flower in a garden. Who would have thought? It's the year 1588, and your life as a samurai is taking a turn you didn't expect. Now that you've earned your daisho and your place in the samurai ranks, you're learning the finer details, the important things. Things like tea ceremonies, calligraphy, and poetry. Yes, poetry. You're supposed to be a warrior, but instead you're sitting here cross-legged on a tatami mat, trying to make sense of this delicate, absurd world they've thrown you into. One moment, You are on the battlefield, covered in blood, your sword stained, your heart racing with the adrenaline of survival. And the next, you're holding a brush in your hand, trying to carve out beautiful characters on paper, all while being told to maintain perfect posture and not move a muscle. And don't even get started on the tea ceremony. It's not as simple as you thought. No, every sip is calculated, every movement deliberate, every gesture an expression of culture. The kind of culture you never learned in the mud. The kind of culture that seems far removed from the brutal reality of war. Yesterday, I killed a man, you think, staring at the brush in your hand, and today I'm learning how to arrange flowers. The logic of the samurai is truly something else. The tea ceremony is a symphony of silence, the flick of the wrist, the careful placement of the cup, the measured breaths. It's all so precise. You're supposed to appreciate the beauty of the moment, the tranquility of it all. But your mind keeps wandering back to the chaos of the battlefield. How can you think of flowers and porcelain when all you've ever known is blood and steel? How can you hold a brush and not wish it were a sword? The tea must be consumed slowly, your instructor says. A serene smile on his face as he pours the liquid with such grace it almost looks like a dance. Each sip should be savoured. You almost laugh, but you catch yourself. Savoured? What's there to savour? You wonder as you take the smallest sip, trying to blend in, pretending that you don't feel like a fraud. Yesterday, you were a killer, and today you're an apprentice in the fine art of looking refined. You try to appreciate the tea, the peace, but all you can think about is how much you'd rather be swinging a sword or charging into battle, where life makes sense, even if it's messy. But this is the path you're on now. To be a true samurai, they say, you must embody both the warrior and the scholar. Warrior and scholar. The phrase rings in your head like some joke you don't fully get. How can you be both? How can you stand between these two worlds without falling apart? And yet, here you are, trying to perfect your calligraphy, trying to find meaning in the strokes of a brush that seems so trivial compared to the weight of a sword. It's almost laughable. You glance around the room, watching the others as they perform these rituals with ease, their faces calm, collected. They've mastered this strange world of culture, of politeness, of knowing when to bow and when to speak. You, on the other hand, are just trying not to snap your brush in half from sheer frustration. What am I doing here? You wonder, sighing quietly. I've killed men. I've bled for my survival, and now I'm supposed to be some sort of delicate flower? But that's the samurai way, isn't it? Two sides of the same coin. A blade that can cut through flesh and a brush that can create beauty. You're learning it all, the art of war and the art of culture. And maybe, just maybe, one day you'll be able to balance the two. Until then, you'll keep sipping, keep practicing, keep pretending that these refined things make you a better warrior. For now, though, it feels like you're just playing dress-up. In 1589, you're assigned to Kyoto. It's supposed to be a prestigious post, a chance to be closer to the heart of power, closer to the people who make the real decisions. You were once a lowly ashigaru, a foot soldier, and now you're here, in the capital of Japan, assigned to serve your lord's interests in the grand game of power. The moment you step into Kyoto, the sheer weight of the city hits you, the sprawling castle, the opulence of the nobility. It's a world far removed from the dirt and blood of the battlefield. But don't let the beauty fool you. This is a city where power isn't won by swords or spears, but by whispers, glances, and veiled threats. Here, the most dangerous weapons aren't forged in a smith's fire. They're crafted in the shadows, where no one can see them coming. Kyoto is a place of intrigue, a place where every smile hides a dagger, and every handshake is a potential betrayal. You watch, wide-eyed, as lords and ladies move through the halls of the palace, their robes trailing behind them like ghosts. They speak in riddles, never revealing their true intentions, never showing their true faces. What you hear isn't truth. What you see isn't real. And the worst part? You realize that everyone here is playing a game, and you You're just another pawn on their board. This is how it works, huh? You think, as you watch a minister make polite conversation with a general while plotting the downfall of his rival. A place where you don't need a katana to cut someone down. A whisper in the right ear is all it takes. The politics here are more brutal than any battlefield you've ever seen. It's not just about strategy, it's about survival. The smile you give someone today could be the reason you end up dead tomorrow. The gossip in the hallways, the murmur of servants in the corners of the room, it all matters. The power lies in the details, in the quiet words no one else is listening to, in the backroom deals that leave no trace. Politics is more dangerous than war, you think, trying to keep up with the endless sea of names and titles you're suddenly expected to remember. It's a confusing mess of alliances, rivalries, and betrayals. If you're not careful, you'll be caught in the crossfire, and it won't be your katana that saves you. It'll be your ability to survive the whispers. You catch a glimpse of the true nature of power when a well-dressed woman bows in front of a lord, smiling sweetly, all the while poisoning his mind against a rival in the next room. You watch as another noble silently gestures to an attendant, signalling the end of a man's career with a simple flick of the wrist. This is it, you think, your eyes narrowing as you begin to understand the way things work. The most dangerous weapon here isn't a blade, it's a whisper. It's the things they don't say, the words that are never spoken aloud. The real fight happens behind closed doors, where there's no honor, no glory, just survival. At first you think you can escape it, that you'll just do your job, keep your head down, and stay out of the game. But you soon realize that's impossible. In Kyoto, you don't get to stay in the background. You're already in it. You're part of the web now, a thread in the tangled mess of ambition and deceit. Every conversation you have, every decision you make could be the thing that turns the tide, either for you or against you. So, you learn. You learn to listen, to watch, to read between the lines. You learn that the true sword in this city is your mind, your ability to see the game, and more importantly, to play it better than everyone else. Is this what it means to be a samurai? You wonder, looking around at the faces of the men and women who walk through these halls, each of them wearing a mask. Not to be a warrior, but to be a player in a game of shadows. You might not have chosen this path, but now that you're here, there's no going back. The whispers are everywhere, and if you want to survive, you'll need to learn how to speak them too. In 1590, the concept of love doesn't even exist in your vocabulary. Loyalty and duty, yes, but love? Number. That's a luxury for the rich, a dream that has no place in the brutal reality of your life as a samurai. And yet, here you are, standing in front of your bride, a woman you've never met before, about to begin a life that was arranged for you by the very system that's been shaping your every move. Your marriage isn't some grand romantic tale. No, it's a transaction, a strategic move. You're being married off to the daughter of a poor samurai, someone who has just enough status to make this union worthwhile in the eyes of your lord. She's young, nervous, and about as excited as you are, which, to be fair, isn't saying much. You find yourself staring at her, awkwardly standing across the room, both of you probably wondering the same thing. Why are we doing this? Great, you think, trying to hide the discomfort. Now I'm supposed to be a husband. Just another title to add to the pile. It's not that she's unattractive. She's fine, really. But you've been trained to think of women as little more than tools for legacy, for producing heirs, for continuing the cycle of samurai pride. This whole marriage thing is just another duty, like everything else in your life. You don't love her, she doesn't love you. Neither of you has a choice in the matter. You both go through the motions. The ceremony is traditional, full of polite nods, respectful bows, and vows that neither of you really listens to. You barely notice the guests, the servants, the chanting of the priests. All you can think about is how strange this feels. Here you are, a man who's been through wars, bloodshed, and betrayal, and now you're standing in front of a woman, pretending this means something. The night falls, and the awkwardness settles in. You and your new wife share a room. the tension between you so thick that it could be cut with a blade. Neither of you knows how to begin. So, what now, you think, staring at the ceiling, wishing you could be anywhere but here? Are we supposed to talk? Pretend we have something in common? Pretend this is something more than what it really is? You both sit in silence, and it's painfully clear that neither of you knows what to do next. This isn't love, it's a contract, an obligation. She's probably just as terrified as you are, trapped in this world of expectations and rules. You're two strangers in a room, forced together by the same system that has dictated every other part of your life. At least we have that in common, you think bitterly. We're both trapped in this. The night drags on, the awkwardness nearly suffocating. You both try to make the best of it, but neither of you has any real experience with the things that are supposed to come next. There's no passion here, no excitement, no burning desire, just two people fulfilling their duties, like soldiers on a battlefield who don't know each other's names. This is what it means to be samurai, you reflect, looking at her, feeling the weight of the silence between you. Loyalty, duty, honor, but not love, not real love. She's just a means to an end, a partner to bear children, to carry on the family name, to fulfill the expectations of the clan. It's not romantic, it's not even close, and yet, as the night draws to a close, as you lie next to her in the dark, something shifts, something small but important. You realize that you don't hate her, you don't really know her, but she's here, just like you, just as stuck in this life. Maybe that's enough. For now, at least for tonight, you can both be equally uncomfortable together. The year is 1592, and you find yourself thousands of miles from home, standing in a foreign land, Korea. You didn't ask for this. You didn't sign up to be a pawn in the grand ambitions of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, but here you are. The smell of salt water hangs thick in the air as you and your comrades disembark onto a new shore, ready to conquer, or, more accurately, to die trying. Hideyoshi, the man who united Japan under his rule, has decided that he needs to spread Japan's influence beyond its borders. He believes that Korea is the key to his dreams of greater power. Spread civilization, they say. Show them the glory of our culture. You're supposed to believe it too. The propaganda is thick, and everyone around you wears their false patriotism like a badge of honor. But as you look at the soil beneath your feet, you can't help but wonder, what the hell are we really doing here? You've already seen the devastation. The villages you've passed through are burning. Homes, crops, entire ways of life reduced to ashes, all for civilization. You don't have the luxury of doubt right now, not in the thick of this brutal invasion. Your orders are simple. Fight, kill, and die if you must. It's the same song, just in a different language. But this time, it feels different. This isn't just a battle between samurai. This is a war of empires, a clash of nations that will leave its mark long after you're gone. And the bloodshed, it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. The Korean soldiers fight with determination, and the terrain is treacherous. It's not the clean, organized warfare you were trained for. No, this is a brutal, chaotic mess of blood and mud. You see the faces of your fellow soldiers, their eyes wide with fear, their hands trembling around their weapons, and in the thick of it you realize something. This isn't about honor, it's about survival. They told us we were spreading civilization, you think, staring down at the blood-stained earth, your yari heavy in your hands. But all we've spread is death. You can't help but laugh bitterly at the irony. You were told you'd be bringing glory to Japan. Instead, you're just another man on a battlefield, swinging your weapon to survive. Civilization? There's nothing civil about the way this war is fought. All you see are the bodies, your comrades, the enemy soldiers, innocent civilians caught in the middle, all of them feeding the insatiable hunger of war. And then, in the heat of battle, you witness the true horror of what it means to invade another land. You're standing over the body of a fallen Korean soldier, your sword still dripping with his blood, when you realize he's not much different from you. He's just a man, just like you, thrown into a war he didn't ask for, forced to defend his home against invaders who don't care about his people. We're no better than the people we're fighting, you think, the weight of the thought heavy in your chest. Hideyoshi says we're spreading civilization, you mutter under your breath, wiping the blood off your blade. Well, if this is civilization, I think I'd rather go back to the mud and blood of my own village. But you can't go back. There's no turning back now. The war rages on, and you're just another foot soldier in a campaign that will only end when either Hideyoshi's ambitions are fulfilled, or when everyone involved is dead. You fight, not because you believe in the cause, but because if you don't, you'll be another casualty, another name on a long list of those who died for someone else's dream. As you march further into Korea, the bodies pile up. Every village you pass, every town you burn, only leaves more questions in your mind. What are you really fighting for? And what will it all mean when it's over? You're here for someone else's glory, for someone else's ambition, and when the dust settles, you'll either be a hero or just another forgotten corpse on a foreign shore. So this is the cost of ambition, you think, staring at the distant horizon where the sun is setting over the smoke of the villages you've destroyed. Glory, honor, civilization, all just empty words to cover up the mess we've made. But the war goes on. And you? You keep fighting because that's all you can do. You're just a soldier after all. And when the last of the bodies are counted, when the war is over, you'll be left standing. Or, more likely, you'll be just another name lost to history. Winter has set in, and the cold feels like a weight pressing against your chest, slowly crushing the life out of you. You're stuck in Korea, far from home, your comrades just as lost as you are in this frozen hell. The battles are over, or at least that's what they tell you. But the real fight, the one that no one prepared you for, that's the fight for survival. The food is gone, the supplies are running out, the cold is relentless, and so is the hunger. It gnaws at you, first just a small ache in your stomach, then a constant, all-consuming pain. It's not just hunger, it's desperation. This isn't the way I thought it would be, you think, staring at the barren landscape, your breath coming in ragged gasps. We came here for glory, for civilization. But this is just a waiting game. You were told that samurai were strong, that they stood for honor, for discipline. But what do you do when honor doesn't fill your belly and discipline doesn't stop the pain in your gut? You do what anyone would do. You survive. The disease begins to spread soon after. It's just a small cough at first, a few soldiers lying in their tents, looking pale and feverish. Then it spreads like wildfire, sweeping through the camp. There's nothing you can do, no medicine, no help, just cold, bitter winds and men coughing up blood, their skin turning ashen. And still, you're told to march, told to fight, as if the war is still going on, as if it's still the same as it was when you first set foot on this cursed land. But now, every step you take feels heavier. It's not the weight of your armor or your yari, it's the weight of survival itself. But survival in a place like this doesn't come without a price, it doesn't come without decisions that eat at your soul. The first time you see it, you don't believe it. You think you've imagined it, that the hunger and the sickness have finally taken their toll on your mind. But no, it's real. You watch as one of the soldiers, a man you once trained with, a man you thought you knew, cuts into the body of a fallen comrade. It's brutal, savage. The dead man's body is stripped of everything it has, all for the promise of a small morsel to survive another day. Is this what Bushido teaches us? You wonder, your stomach turning. To survive, we must abandon everything we once stood for? Honor, loyalty, respect. What's left when all that's left is a dead man's flesh? The thought haunts you, but there's no time to dwell on it. You're not a samurai anymore. You're just a man, a soldier, a beast trying to hold on to whatever humanity is left in you. And so you do what you must. You take the meat. You swallow it without question, without thought. What's a little more blood when your own life is slipping away? Bushido doesn't teach you this, you mutter bitterly, wiping the blood from your lips. It doesn't teach you what to do when you're so hungry you'd eat your own mother's bones if it meant living another day. As the days stretch on, it becomes harder and harder to remember the man you were before this. The samurai, the warrior, the one who fought for honor. That man feels like a distant memory now, lost to the hunger, the sickness, the madness of survival. Maybe we were never samurai at all, you think, staring at the body of another comrade now reduced to little more than food. Maybe we were just animals in disguise, pretending to be something more than we are. The camp becomes a cemetery. The bodies pile up. Some die from disease, others from hunger, and still others in the brutal, unspoken violence of men driven to the edge. There are no more songs of glory, no more talk of honor. There's just the cold and the hunger and the dead. You survive. For now. But as you watch another man fall, another comrade lost to the darkness of this foreign land, you wonder, what's the point of surviving if you lose yourself in the process? You're not sure anymore. But one thing is clear, you'll do whatever it takes to make it through the winter. Whatever it takes. You're back in Japan. At least, that's what they tell you. The familiar sight of the coastline greets you. The land of your birth, the soil that should feel like home. But it doesn't. Not anymore. The moment your feet touch the ground, you realize something. This place, this life, feels like a distant memory, a dream you can't quite remember but know has left a scar on your soul. You've been away for years, fighting in a foreign land, surrounded by death, disease, and hunger. You came back expecting to feel relief, but what you really feel is empty. Empty in a way you didn't even know was possible. You can't shake the images of the men you killed, the bodies you walked past, the hunger that made you do things you can't ever take back. You don't even have a word for it yet. There's no term for this kind of thing. This disconnection between the man you used to be and the one you are now. I'm supposed to be home, you think, staring at the horizon, the wind on your face doing little to push away the weight that settled in your chest. I'm supposed to be at peace, but all I feel is broken. The war didn't end when you left Korea. It didn't end when you stepped off the ship. The real war, the one no one tells you about, is the one inside your head, the one that's constantly replaying images of your comrades, your enemies, the ones you left behind. You think you've escaped the nightmare, but the nightmare follows you. And then, as if fate mocks you, you walk into your house and see her, your wife, the woman you married out of duty, out of necessity, standing there with a child in her arms. Your child, the first one. What do I do with this? You wonder, staring at the baby, its tiny eyes staring back at you. How do you love this? How do you care for something when you're not sure you even care for yourself anymore? Your wife smiles, proud and tired, but you can see the hesitation in her eyes. She's nervous too. You've been gone for so long. You're not the same man who left. No, that man has been buried somewhere deep inside, replaced by someone who doesn't know how to function in a world that no longer makes sense. How do you teach Bushido to a child? You think bitterly, staring at the tiny face, when you don't even believe in it anymore. You were supposed to be the father who taught honor, discipline, and loyalty. You were supposed to pass on the ways of the samurai, the code of Bushido. But how can you? How can you teach a child to live by a code you no longer trust? A code that led you to do things you can't forget. Honor, you think, the word tasting bitter in your mouth. Honor got me to this point, didn't it? It got me home. But at what cost? You don't say any of this, of course. You smile, play the part of the dutiful husband and father, even as your insides feel like they're unraveling. You nod as your wife talks about the baby's first cries, about how she managed while you were away. But inside, it's all noise, the sound of your own mind spiraling, of memories that won't let go, of a future that feels as hollow as the war you just left behind. What do I do with this life now, you ask yourself, sitting by the fire later that night, watching the flickering flames dance in the dark. I survived the battlefield, but how do I survive this? And yet, you don't speak it out loud. You don't talk about the fear that grips you every time the silence gets too loud, every time you feel like you're suffocating under the weight of your past. No one has a name for this yet. No one understands what it's like to come back from a war that never truly ends. Your wife sleeps beside you, and the baby rests in the crib. There's peace here, but it's not the kind you imagined. It's a fragile peace, one built on a foundation that's crumbling beneath your feet. You've come home, yes, but home isn't enough to heal what's broken inside you. How do you teach someone to live when you can't even figure out how to do it yourself? And yet, you'll try. For the child. For her. You'll put on the mask. You'll pretend. Because that's what samurai do, right? You survive and you keep going, even when you're not sure why. It's 1598, and the world is once again in turmoil. This time, it's not the fires of battle that rage, but something far quieter, far more insidious. The sickness of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who brought you to this point, the man who shaped your destiny. The warlord who once united Japan is now dying, his health fading in front of your eyes, and with his death, everything you've known, everything you fought for, begins to crumble. You're in Kyoto, in the heart of the empire, and yet you feel like you're in the eye of a storm. The winds of change are blowing hard, and with Hideyoshi's fading breath, the political landscape is shifting. The warlord's health is failing, and suddenly men who were once your comrades are now looking at each other like wolves circling a carcass. Factions begin to emerge, each with their own ambition, their own vision of what Japan should look like once Hideyoshi is gone. Ah, the sweet scent of betrayal, you think with a bitter laugh, watching men you once trusted now whispering behind closed doors, plotting, scheming. Yesterday, brothers in arms, tomorrow, rivals. This is the way of samurai, isn't it? Loyalty, fleeting, honor, an illusion. Today, you serve one master. Tomorrow, you might be killing him. You can feel the tension in the air, the sharpness of the knives being sharpened behind your back. No one is safe. Not even Hideyoshi, the man who once seemed invincible, the man who defeated enemies and built empires with nothing but his willpower. His power, too, is fading, and with it, so is the illusion of stability. You can almost hear the whispers growing louder, the power plays, the maneuvers to position oneself in the wake of Hideyoshi's demise. Loyalty? What's that worth now? You think, pacing the cold stone floors of the castle. Tomorrow, my closest ally might be my enemy, and I'll have to kill him, because that's the way the game is played. Your mind is a storm of conflicting thoughts. Loyalty to a dying man, to a system that's falling apart at the seams. It's all so fragile, so temporary. In the world of samurai, there's no room for hesitation. You've seen it before. The moment you hesitate, you're as good as dead. The fates of men are decided in a split second, and alliances are broken with the same ease as a blade through flesh. But even as you question your loyalty, even as you begin to doubt everything you fought for, there's something inside you. A voice, small but insistent, that keeps pulling you back. Loyalty. Maybe it means something, even if it's not to Hideyoshi. Maybe it means something to yourself, to the code you've spent your whole life learning to follow, even if it feels meaningless now. Am I nothing more than a pawn in a game I didn't choose, you wonder, looking at the faces around you, all of them wearing masks of politeness, pretending that this chaos isn't brewing just beneath the surface. The fight for power begins in earnest now. Hideyoshi's death is inevitable. His son, Hideyori, is still young, too young to hold on to the empire's power. And that's when the vultures start to circle, men like Ishida Mitsunari, who believes the future of Japan lies in the hands of the Toyotomi family, and men like Tokugawa Ieyasu, who believes it's time to take power for himself. How long do we keep pretending that loyalty matters, you think, watching the factions split further? Yesterday, comrades. Today, enemies. But then, in the midst of the chaos, there's a flicker of something, a moment where you realize the cost of all this. Loyalty, power, war, betrayal. You've been through it all, fought battles you never asked for, killed men you didn't even know. And now, in the quiet before the storm, you wonder, is it all worth it? Was it ever? But the answer doesn't matter. The game continues. Hideyoshi's body will soon be cold, and the scramble for power will begin. You'll either be part of it or be crushed under its weight. The question is, which side will you choose? And just like that, you're back in the game, because in the world of samurai, there's no such thing as peace, only war, only survival. It's 1599, and you've found yourself stuck in the middle of the most important decision of your life. Well, important might be too kind. It's less about honor, less about glory, and more about choosing which kind of death you prefer. Ishida Mitsunari or Tokugawa Ieyasu, 2 men, 2 sides, each one offering a fate that's no better than the other. You're a samurai, but that doesn't mean you're immune to the cold reality of war. Loyalty only goes so far when both sides are equally likely to cut you down for a slight. The choice feels like a bad joke, one that's been told too many times. Choose your side, die in battle, or die as a traitor. The fates of men are being decided not on the battlefield but in the shadows, by whispers and promises. And you? Well, you're just trying to stay alive. It's not about who's right or who's wrong anymore. It's about picking the side that'll let you see another sunrise. So, which way do I want to die? You think, staring at the 2 names in front of you, each one more terrifying than the last. Burned alive or drowned in a lake? Either way, I'm screwed. The tension is palpable. The war between Ishida Mitsunari's Western Army and Tokugawa Ieyasu's Eastern Army is heating up. You've watched it unfold, seen alliances made and broken, heard the threats, the promises. On one side, you have Mitsunari, a man whose loyalty to Hideyoshi's memory is unwavering, perhaps to the point of madness. On the other, you have Ieyasu, the cunning, calculating general who doesn't care about your loyalty. He only cares about victory. Mitsunari or Ieyasu? You wonder as you sit in your tent, watching the soldiers prepare. One of them is going to win. The other is going to be forgotten, and I get to choose which side I'm on. But it's not a choice at all, is it? You know that no matter which side you pick, you'll be seen as a traitor by someone. If you side with Mitsunari, you're labeled as a fool for fighting a losing battle. If you side with Ieyasu, you're marked as a coward, someone who abandoned his principles for survival. You're stuck between 2 men, neither of whom is likely to keep their word, both of whom would cut you down without a second thought if it meant securing their power. Which one do I trust, you ask yourself? But the answer is obvious. Neither. In the end, you make your choice, not because it's the right one, but because it's the only one that gives you a chance to live. You side with the Ieyasu. It's a decision made out of pragmatism, not loyalty. Mitsunari's army is full of men who are desperate, driven by ideals that are as fragile as the paper they're written on. Ieyasu's forces, on the other hand, are disciplined, organized, and ruthless. Everything you need to survive in a world that values nothing but power. You feel the weight of your decision as soon as you make it. It's not a choice you can undo. You've chosen a side, and with that choice comes consequences. In this world, there's no middle ground. The moment you pick a side, you've signed your own death warrant. If Ieyasu wins, you'll live, but you'll be no better than a dog. If Mitsunari wins, you're just another traitor to be executed. It's a lose-lose situation, and you know it. This is it, you think, feeling a knot tighten in your stomach. The choice between burning and drowning. How lovely. You march into battle, not with hope or honor, but with the bitter knowledge that survival is the only thing that matters. You fight, not for glory, not for loyalty, but for the simple reason that you want to live. You've survived too much to die for some fleeting sense of principle. And when the dust settles, when the battle ends, you'll see whether you made the right choice. You'll see if Ieyasu's victory means you'll be rewarded, or if, like so many before you, you'll be tossed aside when you're no longer useful. Great, you think, watching the battle unfold before you. Who needs honor when you've got survival? You know the truth now. In the world of samurai, it's not about who's right. It's about who's still standing when the fighting stops. The air is thick with smoke and the stench of sweat, blood, and fear. The year is 1600, and you find yourself in the middle of the largest battle in Japanese history, Sekigahara. 6 hours. That's all it takes. 6 hours to determine the future of Japan. 6 hours where the fates of warlords, clans, and the samurai way of life are decided. And here you are, on the wrong side of it. You've been here before, on the edge of battle, adrenaline pumping, the clatter of swords and armor ringing in your ears. But this is something else. The stakes are higher than you've ever felt. You're fighting for survival, not just for your life, but for your entire existence. The world is changing, and in these moments, you can almost feel it. Everything you know is about to crumble. This battle isn't just about winning or losing. It's about whether samurai will even matter when the dust settles. And yet, in the middle of it all, you're not even sure which side you're on. The moment you saw the lines drawn, you knew you were on the losing side. It's not even about honor now. It's about survival, about keeping your head down and praying that you're not the next to fall. 6 hours, you think. The weight of it pressing on you as the battle rages around. 6 hours to end it all. 6 hours for the future of Japan. And me? I'll be dead by the third. The ground beneath you is slick with blood, the screams of the dying filling the air like a terrible symphony. You fight because you have to, because the alternative is worse. You don't care about the politics anymore. You don't care about the future of Japan. All you care about is making it through another minute, another hour. Because you know, deep down, that your side is losing. You know that no matter how hard you fight, no matter how many enemies you take down, the result is inevitable. It's funny, you think, slashing your yari through the air. A few hours ago, I was a proud samurai. Now, I'm just a man trying to stay alive. The fighting grows more intense. You can see the chaos unfold in front of you. Your comrades are scattered, charging forward with no real plan, no hope. The soldiers on your side are retreating, and those on the opposing side, Tokugawa Ieyasu's forces, are closing in. Their movements tight, calculated. It's over. You know it's over. By the third hour, you're starting to feel the reality of defeat. The cries of victory from the other side echo through the field, and there's a deep, sickening realization inside you. You're going to lose this fight, and with it, everything you've known, everything you've fought for, will be lost. So this is how it ends, you think, stepping over the bodies of fallen comrades, their faces twisted in pain. Loyalty? Honor? All just words. In the end, it's who's left standing that counts. You glance across the battlefield, trying to find a way out, but there's no escape. The battle is over, and your side is being crushed. You are just a warrior now, a man who has been swept up in a fight he didn't ask for, didn't want. But that's the way it goes, isn't it? You play the game, and sometimes you lose. As the hours drag on, the defeat becomes inevitable. There's no room for heroism here. There's no dramatic last stand. There's only retreat and death. You're left with the bitter taste of disillusionment, the cruel reality that, after all the battles, after all the years of fighting for loyalty and honor, it was all just a fleeting illusion. 6 hours. 6 hours to change the course of history. You reflect grimly as the tide of battle finally swallows you whole. And my fate? Hacked to pieces on the battlefield in the third hour. But somehow, in the mess, in the blood and carnage, you survive. Barely. You don't win, but you live. And that's enough for now. The battlefield is silent now, save for the groans of the dying and the distant cries of those who have already fled. Sekigahara is over, and your side, the side of Ishida Mitsunari, has lost. The dust has settled, the smoke has cleared, but the weight of defeat is crushing, heavier than any armor you've ever worn. It's not just the loss of a battle, it's the loss of everything. Your comrades, your loyalty, your honor. The world is spinning in the aftermath and you're caught in the middle, trying to keep your balance, but there's no balance here. There's only one question that matters now. What do you do next? You look around. The choice is yours, and in a way, it's the last choice you'll ever make. You could take your life, end it all with seppuku, a death that would be deemed honorable by the old standards. But then you think about your family, your children. What good is your honor when they're left to starve, to suffer in a world that has no place for them? Honor doesn't feed your children, you think, the cold wind biting your skin. What good is dying for something that's already dead? The samurai around you are already making their decisions. Some are preparing for the honorable death, their swords in hand, ready to end it all in the name of Bushido. Others, the smarter ones, are slipping away into the night, looking for a way to escape, to survive. But you stand there, frozen, caught between two paths. On one hand, you have seppuku, the ultimate symbol of loyalty, a death that says, I did my duty. It's what a samurai is supposed to do. It's what they expect of you. But on the other hand, there's running, escaping, the coward's path. Or is it? Loyalty to a dead cause, you think bitterly. That's what it is, isn't it? Dying for a lost war, for a man who couldn't hold on to power. And what do I have left if I die now? A neat death and a ruined family? You think about your children again, about the life they'll have without you. How long would they survive without their father, without the man who taught them the value of honor, until you realize that honor meant nothing without survival? I'm supposed to die with honor, you think, the words tasting bitter in your mouth. But my children, they'll die of hunger. That's the real death, isn't it? You take a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision settle on your chest like a stone. You look around at the other samurai, standing proudly waiting for their death. And then you make your choice. You turn your back on the blade of seppuku and start to move. I guess this is what it comes to, you think, swallowing your pride. Loyalty? It didn't save us. Honor? It doesn't feed my family. Survival? That is what matters now. The path to survival is not clean. It's not noble. It's full of shame, full of running, full of the bitter knowledge that you'll never be seen as a true samurai again. But at least you're alive. At least you can look after your family. Loyalty to the dead, you think, as you slip into the shadows, away from the dishonorable death of seppuku. Maybe that's what samurai are supposed to be. But I'll choose survival over the grave. Let them call me a coward. At least I get to live. And so, you run. You leave behind the wreckage of your past, the idealism that led you here, and the honor that no longer means anything in the face of survival. This is the way of the world now. The way of the samurai has died, and with it, all the rules that you once believed in. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what the future holds. But one thing is certain. You'll fight for it, because in the end, survival is the only thing that matters, even if it means losing everything else. But survival comes at a cost. The choice you made to flee rather than die with honor has left you as something else. A ronin, a man without a master, without a purpose. You are no longer a samurai, not in the way you once imagined, with your daisho at your side, your armor gleaming, and your reputation intact. No, today you are something else. You are a ronin, a masterless samurai, a warrior without a lord. And in this world, a samurai without a lord is a man without a name, without a place. Yesterday I was called Sama, you think bitterly, the word still stinging in your memory. Today I'm called trash. The shift is immediate and it's brutal. You've gone from being a respected warrior, someone who commanded at least a modicum of honor, to a pariah, a man who failed, a man who lost everything, not just the battle, but his entire reason for existing. You walk the streets, and the people avert their gaze. No one acknowledges you. The same faces that once bowed to you now look at you with disdain, with pity. They know what you are now. The world has no room for samurai like you anymore. When you had a master, you had purpose, you had status. Now, you're just another wandering blade, with nothing to show for your years of service. Nothing but your shame. This is what happens when you lose, you think, your fist clenching at your sides. You go from being someone to being nothing, just another ghost walking the streets. You try to hold your head high, to remember the way you used to stand, proud and strong. But it's hard to feel that pride when you're nothing more than a shadow of your former self. You've seen it, the way people look at you now, as though you're a failure, a dishonored man who has no place in the world. And they're right. In this world, without a lord, you are nothing. You're worse than nothing. You're invisible. And yet, in the silence, there's something else, a voice, deep inside, that refuses to bow to this fate. I am still a warrior, you remind yourself, gritting your teeth. I still know how to fight. I still have my sword. But it's not enough. A sword doesn't make you a samurai. A sword doesn't give you respect. And without a lord, without a place in this world, your sword feels useless. You feel useless. You spend your days wandering from town to town, picking up odd jobs. Some ask you to defend their homes from bandits. Others pay you to collect debts. But no one calls you Sama anymore. No one looks at you with the same reverence they once did. Is this the price of survival? You think as you clean your sword one evening, staring at the dim reflection of your face in the blade. Is this what it means to live, to fight for nothing but your own existence? The world hasn't just cast you out. It's turned its back on you, like you were never part of it in the first place. You were never a real samurai. You were just another man, another soldier who fought for a cause that no longer exists. And yet, you continue, because you have to. You don't know what else to do. You keep moving, you keep fighting, even if it's not for anything noble, even if it's just to stay alive. Maybe I'm not a samurai anymore, you think as you leave another town, the faces of those who mock you fading into the distance. But I'm still here. I'm still breathing. And for now, that's enough. You're hungry. Not just the faint rumbling in your stomach that passes with a meal, but the kind of hunger that gnaws at your bones. The kind that leaves you lightheaded, unable to focus. You've been wandering from town to town, barely scraping by. You've sold your daisho, the twin swords that marked you as a samurai, long ago to buy food. It was the hardest thing you ever did. You thought that giving them up meant giving up your soul. But now you'd sell them again if it meant you could eat. Selling your honor for a bowl of rice, you think bitterly as you walk through the market. What a glorious way to live. You're not proud of it. But in this world, pride won't keep you alive. Honor won't fill your belly. You can't eat your bushido. The reality is simple. You need money, and you'll do whatever it takes to get it. So here you are, a ronin with no master, no honor, and no future, doing work you once would have spat at. You've become a bodyguard of all things. A hired sword, ready to protect merchants, farmers, and anyone who can afford to pay. The irony isn't lost on you. From defending the honor of my daimyo to guarding a fat merchant's purse, you think with a chuckle. How mighty I've become. The work is menial, the pay is pitiful, but you're alive, barely. You watch as your client, a greedy merchant, hands you a few coins for a day's work, and it feels like you're losing even more of yourself with every coin you take. You can feel the disapproval of the men around you, the samurai who still carry themselves with the false dignity of their long-lost honor. But you don't care. What are you supposed to do? Turn down the work and starve? Oh, I could die for a noble cause, you think with a sardonic grin. Or I could live like this. At least I'm not dead. And yet, as low as it gets, the work doesn't end there. You're not just a bodyguard anymore. No, now you're a debt collector. You walk into towns, your presence alone intimidating enough to scare the life out of petty traders who owe a few coins. You collect their debts, make sure they pay what they owe. If they don't, well, there are always more persuasive methods. Oh yes, you think, I used to be a samurai defending the honor of my lord. Now, I'm just a glorified thug, knocking on doors and making people pay up. The thought disgusts you, but you keep at it, because what else is there? You can't go back. You can't undo what's been done. The wars are over. The samurai are dying out. And here you are, standing on the edge of something you used to despise. You're not proud of what you've become, but you're still breathing. Your sword may be a shadow of its former self, but it still has a purpose, even if that purpose is to collect someone else's debt. Maybe this is it, you think, the harsh reality settling in. Maybe I'm nothing more than a hired blade now, just another man in a world where honor and ideals don't matter anymore. The work never stops. The hunger never stops. The debtors are everywhere, and every day you ask yourself, how did I get here? How did I go from fighting for a daimyo's honor to collecting coin for a merchant's greed? But no one answers. So you keep going, one foot in front of the other, because that's all you can do now. Survive. It hits you harder than a blade to the chest. Your son, your firstborn, the child you once dreamed would carry on your name, your honor, your legacy, looks at you with nothing but shame. He's grown now, on the cusp of becoming a samurai himself, and yet he can't even bring himself to speak to you with anything but cold distance. What did I expect? You think bitterly, watching him walk past you, his gaze lingering only for a second before he looks away. What could I teach him? A ronin with no honor, no master, no future. He's at that age now, the age where everything matters. He's starting to understand what it means to be a warrior, what it means to uphold the ideals of samurai, the very things you used to believe in. But now, standing in front of you, he's embarrassed by the sight of his father, the former warrior, the former samurai, reduced to nothing more than a wandering blade with no master. What's he thinking, you wonder, as he turns away from you yet again? Does he see me as weak? Does he think I'm a failure? It cuts deep, because you know he's right. What can you teach him? What can you say when you've lost everything you once stood for? When you're no longer the proud samurai you used to be, but a ronin, a man who can't even stay loyal to a cause long enough to have one to call his own. What can a samurai fail teach, you think, your voice thick with the sting of your own guilt? What lessons could I offer when I failed everything and everyone who ever believed in me? It's a cruel irony, isn't it? To raise your child to follow a path you no longer believe in. You wanted to show him the way of the sword, the way of the samurai. You wanted to teach him that honor and loyalty were the things that mattered. But now you can't even look him in the eye without feeling like a fraud. You remember the stories you used to tell him about the great samurai who fought for honor, for a master, for a cause. You told him about the noble warriors who died with their swords in their hands, their names etched in history. But now you can't even make him believe those stories, because they're just that, stories, old lies told by men who had their own paths, men who died on their feet, not their knees. How do I look at him now? You think, as he walks away, his back straight and proud, a samurai in the making, while you are nothing more than a shadow of what you once were. How do I teach him to live by the sword when I've barely lived by it myself? And then it hits you, the truth that you've been avoiding for so long. He's ashamed of you. He's ashamed of the ronin you've become, of the man who has no place in this new world, this world that no longer has a place for the likes of you. And you feel nothing but the crushing weight of that truth. What kind of man am I, you wonder, staring at your son's retreating form? What kind of samurai fails his son? It's a question you can't answer. Not now, not ever. But in the quiet of that moment, as you watch him walk away, a part of you understands. You understand the pain, the shame, because it's not just his anymore. It's yours too. You failed him, and now you'll spend the rest of your life trying to figure out how to live with that. But even in the midst of rejection, the world offers you a chance to witness something that could change everything. A meeting with a madman, a man who might be more samurai than you ever were. You're not sure why you've crossed paths with him. Maybe it's fate, or maybe it's just another cruel twist of your already ridiculous life. Either way, you find yourself standing in front of one of the most legendary figures in Japanese history, Miyamoto Musashi, a young man who, even in the early days of his life, is already something more than human. This guy's insane, you think, watching him with a mixture of disbelief and awe. He stands before you, his eyes calm, his stance fluid, like he's about to perform a ritual rather than fight. You, on the other hand, are a mess, a man who has lost his purpose, a ronin without a cause, and here you are, about to duel with a madman. Musashi is different from anyone you've ever seen. He's not just skilled, He's dangerous in ways you can't understand. He's got this raw energy, this sense of purpose, and it's like nothing you've ever encountered. It doesn't matter that he's younger than you, or that you've spent more years with a sword in your hand than he has. There's a clarity in his movements, a kind of madness in the way he swings his two swords, as if he were born with them in his hands. What am I even doing here, you think, gripping your own sword tighter. You've fought in countless battles, but this feels different. It feels like something more than just another duel. It feels like you're facing something that could shatter everything you thought you knew about being a samurai. The fight begins, and you immediately realize you've underestimated him. You try to land a blow, hell, you try to think, but Musashi's movements are so fast, so unpredictable, that you're already a step behind. Every time you think you've got an opening, he's already there, attacking from an angle you didn't even see coming. He's not just a fighter, he's a force of nature, a whirlwind of skill and insanity. This is ridiculous, you think, as you block yet another strike that would have taken your head off. I've seen everything in battle, but this is a whole new level. You don't know how long the fight lasts, but it doesn't matter. In the end, you lose. It's not even close. Musashi is too fast, too unpredictable, and his mind works in ways you simply can't keep up with. He lands a final, clean strike, and you're left standing there, breathless, feeling like an amateur in a world that's far beyond your reach. But here's the thing, you're not angry. You're not humiliated either, because in the chaos of the fight, something clicks in your mind. You realize that Musashi is insane, not in the way that you thought, not in the way that you expected, but in a way that's far more profound. He doesn't fight for honor. He doesn't fight for glory. He fights to be the fight. It's not about the blade, or the battle, or even the enemy. It's about the moment, the clarity of the battle, the purity of it. This man is more samurai than all of us, you think, as you watch him walk away, his dual swords casually resting in his hands. In his madness, he's figured out something we've all missed. Musashi doesn't look back as he disappears into the distance, leaving you there, staring after him, your mind spinning. What was that fight? What was that philosophy he had? You've spent your life trying to live by Bushido, trying to adhere to rules, to honor, to the way of the sword. But Musashi, he's beyond that. He's not following any code. He's creating his own, one that can't be defined, one that doesn't care about the past or the future. Maybe that's what makes him stronger, you think, a wry smile tugging at the corner of your lips. He's crazy, but in his madness, he's free. For the first time in a long time, you don't feel like the world is closing in on you. For a moment, you feel something. Hope, maybe? Clarity even? Because in the chaos of your life as a Ronin, Musashi has shown you something new. He's shown you that it's possible to create your own path, to live by your own rules. Maybe I don't need honor anymore, you think, looking at the empty field where you were just defeated. Maybe I just need to find my own fight. But as you begin to understand the true meaning of a samurai's life, the earth itself reminds you that some things, like survival, are beyond the control of any sword or philosophy. It's the kind of day that seems no different from any other. The sun is up, the city of Kyoto is bustling with life, and you're moving through the streets, trying to find purpose in a world that has long forgotten yours. Your stomach growls, and your sword feels heavier than usual, but it's another day of surviving, another day of existing. And then, without warning, the ground beneath you begins to tremble. At first, it's just a slight quiver, the kind you might dismiss if you weren't paying attention. But then, it grows stronger, the vibrations building into a violent shake that rattles the buildings, shatters windows, and sends people screaming into the streets. It's a quake, a massive one, shaking the very earth beneath you as if the planet itself is revolting against the people who've taken it for granted. The ground heaves, cracks, and splits open. You can feel the very bones of the earth shifting beneath your feet and for a moment you wonder if the world itself is trying to erase everything. The wars, the samurai, the caste system, all of it. What the hell? You think, stumbling, barely managing to stay on your feet as the city shakes. Is this how we go? With the earth swallowing us whole? The destruction is immediate. Buildings collapse in on themselves, roads buckle and crack, and chaos erupts around you. The air is thick with dust and the screams of terrified people. Kyoto, this city of power, of culture, of politics, seems so fragile now, just another victim of nature's rage. You look around, but there's no time for fear, no time for thoughts of the past. People are trapped under rubble, screaming for help. You can't hear the caste system, the social classes, the rank of samurai or merchant or farmer. None of it matters anymore. The earth doesn't care if you're a samurai or a peasant. It only cares that you survive. In the madness, you run toward the cries. There's no hesitation. You don't stop to think about what side they're on or what kind of person they are. There's no room for that. You move, lifting debris, pulling people free from collapsed buildings, helping the injured without asking questions, without regard for who they are or what their status is. In this moment, in the face of death, none of that matters. So much for honor, you think, as you pull a merchant from the wreckage, his face pale, eyes wide with fear. In the end, we're all just people trying not to die. You don't know how long it's been, but by the time the shaking finally stops, the city is unrecognizable. Kyoto, once a symbol of power and culture, now lies in ruins. The ground has cracked open and swallowed entire sections of the city, the skyline reduced to rubble. The people stumble out from the wreckage covered in dust, their faces stricken with shock. The air smells of smoke, of blood, of something far more real than the politics that once dominated this city. There are no samurai here, you think, as you stare at the survivors, some of whom are bleeding, some of whom are missing limbs, and all of whom are struggling to hold on to life. There are no peasants either. There are just people, just survivors. You move through the wreckage, helping where you can, but the questions are starting to settle in. What does it all mean? What's left when the earth itself decides to level everything you've known? When all the status, the titles, the years of training and fighting, all of it, are reduced to dust? So, this is what it comes to, you think, wiping the sweat and dust from your brow. It wasn't war that took us down. It wasn't an enemy. It was the earth itself, and it didn't care about any of us. As you help the last few survivors to safety, a strange thought crosses your mind. In this world, when everything is gone, when the earth shakes and humanity is forced to its knees, perhaps the only thing that truly matters is survival, not honor, not loyalty, not the samurai code, just the simple, brutal need to keep breathing. And for the first time in a long time you wonder, is this the way it's always been? And if so, what's the point of it all? But there's no time for answers, only the dust, the survivors, and the realization that, in the face of nature's wrath, we are all equal, vulnerable, and in need of the same thing: survival. After the earth has shaken you to your core, fate throws a new challenge your way. A student, not in the art of war, but in the art of survival. You've seen him 1,000 times before. A filthy kid, no older than 12, running through the streets, eyes darting, hands always ready to snatch anything of value. He's nothing but another urchin, a face among the thousands who scrape by in the shadows of a city that doesn't care about them. But today, something's different. Today, the kid stops in front of you, eyes not full of hunger or greed, but something you hadn't expected: determination. What does he want, you think, eyeing him warily, your hand instinctively gripping the hilt of your sword? You've seen plenty of desperate souls, but this one, there's something different about him. "I want you to teach me to fight," the boy says, voice rough but direct. "I want to be a swordsman like you." You almost laugh. A swordsman, him, a street rat. It's the kind of request that used to annoy you, the arrogance of a kid who thinks the sword is the answer to everything. But something in his eyes, that fire, makes you hesitate. Maybe it's the fact that you've got nothing better to do. Maybe it's the loneliness that creeps in when you realise that, after everything, you've got no one to teach. Or maybe it's just that you're tired of seeing yourself in these kids, who think the sword will give them purpose. For what, you finally ask, the words slipping out before you can stop them. So you can die with honour like your father? So you can join the ranks of the dead, just like I did? The boy doesn't flinch, doesn't waver. No, I just want to be able to protect myself. Protect yourself? You think, staring at him, unsure whether to be impressed or disturbed. I guess that's one way to put it. You take a deep breath, looking at the kid's ragged clothes, the dirt on his face, and for the first time something inside you shifts. Maybe, just maybe, this kid deserves something more than just a quick death. Maybe he deserves to know that there's more to life than just surviving, than just wandering around, chasing some idealized version of honor that doesn't even exist anymore. What do you know about survival, kid, you think, already feeling a sense of irony creep in? What could I teach you that would be worth learning? You teach him the basics, as much as you can. The grip of the sword, the movement of the feet, the balance. You watch him struggle, sweat beading on his forehead as he tries to master something that seems so far beyond him. It's laughable. The kid can barely hold the sword without falling over, let alone fight with it. But there's something in his eyes that won't let him quit. He doesn't whine. He doesn't complain. He just keeps trying. Kid's got guts. I'll give him that, you think, watching him fumble through another failed attempt. Maybe too much, but at least he's not afraid to try. Over time, he gets better. Not great, not even good. But he starts to get it, and you start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, you're not wasting your time. You see something in him that you saw in yourself when you were young. That fire, that need to prove yourself, to show the world that you matter. But then, one day, after a particularly grueling training session, the kid looks at you with the same question he first asked. Can I be a swordsman? Can I be like you? You look at him, that unshakable look in his eyes, and for a moment you see all the lost years in your own life, all the time you spent fighting for nothing, chasing honor that never came. You wonder if he's making the same mistake, if he'll spend his life following a path that only leads to pain and regret. You want to be like me? You ask him, your voice harsh. I'm a failure. You want to be a swordsman? Fine, but I'll teach you something else, something you won't learn from any master. I'll teach you to survive because that's all I know how to do. Honor? It's a lie. It won't save you. He looks confused, but he doesn't argue. Maybe he's too young to understand, or maybe he's wise enough to know you're not lying. He just nods and holds the sword tighter. Maybe he'll be different, you think, watching him. Maybe he'll be smarter than I was. Maybe he'll learn what it means to live, not just to fight. And maybe, just maybe this time you'll teach him something more than the sword. You'll teach him how to live in a world that doesn't care about samurai or honor, or the code you once followed. You'll teach him the hardest lesson of all, the one you had to learn too late, to survive. You've taught him to survive, but in Edo you realize that survival is a constant battle against the prejudices of the past and the ever-changing world. It's a new world, or at least that's what they tell you. Edo, once a small fishing village, has transformed into a thriving metropolis, a bustling center of trade, culture, and power. The Tokugawa shogunate is solidifying its rule, and with it the city is rising, growing larger, more prosperous, and filled with more opportunities than you could ever have imagined. But you know the truth. You know that no matter how bright the city seems, it's still the same world you've always known. A world where your past, your status, and your position follow you like a shadow. You thought the past would stay behind you, that you could escape the stigma of being a ronin, a masterless samurai. But no. Edo is new, but the prejudices? Those are imported from the old city, from the old ways. New city, same old crap, you think. Walking through the busy streets trying to keep your head down, but it's hard. The eyes follow you, the whispers follow you. It doesn't matter how much Edo is growing, how much wealth and power it attracts. It's still the same system, the same feudal hierarchy, and you're still at the bottom. You see it in the way people look at you. The sneers, the sideways glances, the way they quickly turn away when they see the sword at your side, as though it's a badge of shame, not honor. You're a Ronin, and that means you're lower than the dirt they walk on. You've fought battles, bled for a cause, only to end up here, unwanted, unloved by this new world that doesn't care about your past. Do they know what I've seen? You wonder, watching a merchant walk by with his fine clothes and gleaming smile, as though he's never known hunger or pain. Do they know the blood I've spilled for nothing? You thought Edo would offer you a fresh start. You thought maybe this city full of opportunities could offer something new, something more than the life of a Ronin, drifting from place to place with nothing to show for it. But no, the city might be new, but the people, they're as narrow-minded as anywhere else. Opportunity? You scoff under your breath, looking at the merchants hustling along, their eyes locked on the profits they can make, not on the people they trample to get there. Sure, if you're willing to sell your soul for a chance to be one of them, if you're lucky enough to be born into it, you try to make a living in Edo. You take on menial work, guarding this, carrying that, doing whatever you can to survive. You've learned to keep your mouth shut and your head down, just hoping no one notices that you're one of the masterless ones. Every job you take is another reminder of how far you've fallen. Every task, no matter how small, is another humiliation. And yet, there's something in the air, something in the vibrancy of the city that makes you think, maybe there's more here for me. Maybe this time I'll find a place to call my own. But the truth is hard to escape. You can't shake the feeling that no matter how far you come, you'll always be that same man, the one who failed, the one who lost everything. In Edo, I'm just a ghost, you think, watching the crowds rush past, a nobody who can be ignored, dismissed, forgotten. And still, you try. You try to hold on to the hope that Edo will give you something more, something that the world outside couldn't offer. The city is growing, expanding, and maybe, just maybe, there's room for a man like you in the cracks. You keep moving forward, even if it feels like you're dragging your past behind you. City of opportunity, you mutter sarcastically, stepping aside for a group of laughing merchants. Right, if you're lucky enough to have been born into it. But something in you doesn't give up. You're a survivor after all. You might be a Ronin, but you're still breathing. And in this new city, you're going to carve out a place for yourself, even if it means fighting for it, just like you always have. In the face of a world that won't change, you decide to carve out a small space for yourself, a place to teach, to survive, and maybe to find some semblance of purpose. It's a modest dojo, barely enough to call a real training hall, but it's yours. You've made it yours, carved out a little corner of this bustling city where you can share the only thing you still have left, your knowledge of the sword. You may not have much, but what you do have, you'll teach. Maybe it's because you need to feel useful again. Maybe it's because the weight of surviving without a purpose has started to crack you. But in this space, under the flickering light of a lantern, you are finally doing something that feels like it might be worth it. What is Bushido anyway, you think, as you look around at the handful of students who've gathered before you? They're all so different, all so eager, none of them with the polished nobility of the samurai you once knew. Most of them are poor, some of them street urchins, others farmers, looking to defend themselves from the growing banditry. They all want to learn the sword. They all want to become warriors, but there's something different about the way they ask for it. There's no idealism here, no romantic notions about honor, glory, or the way of the samurai. You don't teach them what you were taught. You can't. You don't have the luxury of pretending anymore. Bushido, the way of honor, the way of the samurai. No, those words mean nothing now. Not in a world where survival is the only thing that matters. You've lived it. You know what it costs. And you know that the true path is one you forge yourself, no matter how much it spits in the face of the so-called traditions. So this is the new Bushido, you think, as you watch your students struggle through their stances. Not the stuff about loyalty and honor. Number. This is the version that keeps you alive. The way of surviving in a world that doesn't care about your sword or your code. You don't teach them the clean, elegant swordplay of the samurai. No, you teach them the dirty, practical ways of survival. How to fight when you're outnumbered. How to use the environment to your advantage. How to kill when necessary, and how to get away when it's not. You teach them that a sword isn't just for display or for dying honorably. It's a tool for living. Yeah, no fancy rituals here, kid, you joke, watching one of them struggle with a basic stance. If you want to die beautifully with your katana in hand, you're in the wrong place. You smile at the thought, but it's a bitter smile. You don't pretend to be anything you're not. The world is a mess, and so are you. But in the chaos, at least you have something to offer. Your students look at you with curiosity, some with suspicion, others with skepticism. They're not sure if they should trust you yet, if you've really earned the right to teach them. But they've got nothing else. You know that. There's no one else in this city offering what you can, and that's enough to keep them coming back day after day. What do you really know about Bushido? You wonder to yourself as you watch them struggle with the basics. You used to know. You used to believe in it. But what does it mean now? What's the point of loyalty when you're just trying to make it through the next day? You don't have the answers. Maybe no one does. But you give them what you have. You teach them to survive because that's the only thing that really matters. In your dojo, there's no dogma. No rules except one. You fight to live, and you live to fight. Your students aren't here to learn to die for a noble cause. They're here to learn how to survive in a world that's indifferent to their suffering. They're here to learn to fight, not for glory, not for honor, but for life. And when the day ends, when the last student leaves and the lights go out, you sit there alone, staring at the walls. The echo of their footsteps fades, and you're left with your thoughts. Maybe, just maybe, this is your way of finding redemption. Maybe teaching them this version of Bushido, this survivalist, pragmatic way, will somehow ease the weight of everything you've lost. But for now, you'll just keep teaching, keep fighting, keep surviving, because that's what you can do. You can't undo the past, but maybe, just maybe, you can help them make it through tomorrow. The streets of Edo are bustling, as they always are, with merchants shouting their wares and samurai moving with their unmistakable air of superiority. You've been here long enough to know how this city works, how the layers of society are stacked up like bricks in an old castle. But today, the crowd parts for a familiar face, a face you thought you'd never see again. It's him, your old friend, your comrade in arms from years past, the one you fought alongside in battles you've tried to forget. He's standing there, at the edge of the street, his posture tall and proud, his daisho hanging from his side. He's dressed in the finest samurai armor, the insignia of Tokugawa Ieyasu shining bright on his sleeve. And when his eyes meet yours, you see it. You see the man he's become. Successful, powerful, and now loyal to the very regime that once seemed so foreign to both of you. You both stand there for a moment, just staring at each other. The years have passed and you've both changed, but it's clear he's chosen his side, and it's one that has brought him wealth and status. You, on the other hand, you're still the same man wandering the streets of Edo, running a dojo that barely keeps the walls standing, teaching survival instead of honor. Well, 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 you think, a bitter smile curling at the edges of your mouth. Look at him, all shiny and important. And me, I'm just a relic of a time that doesn't matter anymore. He approaches you, and for a moment, there's that old bond, the one you thought you'd left behind. You've shared the same battles, the same blood, the same loyalty to a cause that seemed just. But now that old bond feels like a memory, like something that's no longer real. He extends his hand to you, and for a moment, you wonder if you should take it. Isn't this the moment I've been waiting for? You think, looking at him, dressed in the full glory of Tokugawa's regime. A reunion of what? A samurai who chose the winning side and a ronin who chose his conscience? But you shake his hand, not because you want to, but because that's what old friends do, even when the years have torn everything apart. He looks at you with a mixture of curiosity and respect, but there's something in his eyes that you can't quite place, something that says he's moved on, and you've been left behind. "It's good to see you," he says, his voice carrying the confidence of a man who has secured his place in the world. "I've heard of your dojo. I'm glad to see you're still alive." The words sting. Alive. Just alive. That's all you are now. Alive, but not living. Not really. And the man standing in front of you, he's thriving. He's found his place in the New World Order, loyal to Tokugawa, the man who's brought unity to Japan. He's a success. A man who chose the right path, the path that led him to power. And you chose something else. He chose Tokugawa, you think bitterly. I chose my conscience, and now look where we both are. You both sit down to talk, but the conversation is strained. He talks about his rise through the ranks, the wealth he's gained, the respect he commands. He speaks of the future of Japan under Tokugawa, and how the peace that's been forged is something he's proud to uphold. But you listen, half-hearted, half-numb. You've heard it all before, from the mouths of men who sacrificed their values for power, and you wonder, as he talks about loyalty and peace, if he's really convinced of it, or if he too has sold something precious for this success. Was it worth it, you ask yourself, staring into your old friend's eyes? Did you sell your soul for a title, for land, for a seat at the table, or are you really a part of something greater? When it's your turn to speak, you don't mention the shame, the regret, the battles lost, not to enemies, but to yourself. You don't mention the life you could have had if you'd just aligned with Tokugawa, if you'd swallowed your pride and been part of the new order. Instead, you tell him about your students, about the dojo that's slowly growing, about the new way of teaching survival instead of honor. You tell him about the things you've learned, the hard lessons of a life spent in the shadows of those who never cared for you. But who's the fool here, you wonder, as you finish speaking? Him, for giving up everything for power? Or me, for thinking honor could still mean something in a world that's moved on? And in that moment, you both realize something. You chose different paths, and yet, neither of you has found the peace you were looking for. He has power, but you have something else. Something fleeting. Something fragile. Who's really won, you wonder as you stand to leave? You, with your success and your power? Or me, with my broken code and my struggle to survive? The answer doesn't come, it never does. But you know one thing for sure. In this world, there are no winners, just men, each of us clinging to our choices, our regrets, and our paths. Even as you confront the past, the most painful truth comes in the quiet moments. You've lost what you loved the most. The room is silent, too silent. The smell of incense hangs thick in the air, mingling with the faint scent of sickness, of a life slowly fading. You sit beside her, watching her breathe, short, shallow, struggling to find air. She doesn't look like the woman you married. The fire in her eyes has dimmed, replaced by a quiet surrender that terrifies you. You don't want to admit it, but you know what's coming. You've seen it before, on the battlefields, in the eyes of soldiers who knew their time had run out. This is her time. I've survived battles. I've survived wars, you think bitterly, your hands cold at your sides. But I can't survive this. Not this. She looks at you, her frail hand reaching for yours, and for a moment there's nothing but the sound of her laboured breathing and the unspoken words between you. How do you say goodbye? How do you tell the woman who stood by you through everything, the losses, the shame, the endless wandering, that you couldn't protect her from this, that there's no battle to fight, no enemy to slay, no victory to claim? You can't even give her the honour of a samurai's death. There's no glory in this, only loss. You were always stronger than I was, you think, your chest tightening. You watched me fall, from samurai to ronin, from a man with a purpose to a man with nothing, and yet you stayed. You stayed with me. She squeezes your hand weakly, a faint smile tugging at her lips, but it's hollow. The world is slipping away from her, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. The woman who had been your rock, the one who kept you grounded when the world felt like it was falling apart, is slipping through your fingers, and as much as you try to hold on, the harder it becomes. This is the part I never learned how to deal with, you think, as your mind drifts back to your days as a samurai, when death was just another part of the path. I could face 100 men in battle, but I can't face this. I can't face losing her. Her breathing grows even more shallow, and you realize the end is near. You feel something deep in your chest, an ache that goes beyond physical pain. It's a deep, gnawing emptiness that feels like it's been there all along, but you only recognize it now, in this moment. Your life, once filled with purpose, now feels like a never-ending search for something you'll never find. You've spent years fighting for honor, for survival, and yet, in the end, it's the simplest thing that breaks you. I spent my life learning to fight, but I never learned how to face the things that really matter, you think, choking back tears you refuse to shed. What's the point of surviving if the people you love are the ones who suffer the most? She slips away quietly, like a candle being blown out. The world continues, the city of Edo still bustling, still moving forward, but for you, it's all stopped. In this moment, you realize something you've never fully understood before. All the years of fighting, all the bloodshed, all the honor and the loss. It doesn't matter if you can't protect the ones you love. It doesn't matter if you've survived every battle, every war, every hardship, if you can't keep your loved ones by your side. She was the strongest of us both, you think, looking at her now still form. A true samurai, more samurai than I ever was. In her death there's no glory, no honor, just the quiet devastation of knowing that your greatest battle, the one you couldn't win, was with time. And now, as she's gone, you're left with nothing but the echo of a life you wish you could have lived differently. You sit in silence, your hand resting on hers, not knowing what to say or do. The world outside keeps moving. The sun will rise tomorrow, but for you, it will never be the same. She fought till the end, stayed with me till the end, you think, your voice almost breaking, and I couldn't protect her, not this time. And for the first time you wonder, what's the point of fighting if the ones you love are the ones you lose? In the wake of loss, you look to the future, wondering what kind of legacy you've left behind, and whether it's worth anything at all. You stand in the doorway, watching them, your children. They're sitting around the low table, papers scattered, their faces intent on books and scrolls, the air thick with the smell of ink and parchment. You've never seen them so focused, so absorbed in something that doesn't involve the sword. You used to imagine them taking up arms, fighting alongside you, continuing the legacy of the samurai. You imagined them standing tall, wielding their swords with honor, carrying your name forward. But today that dream feels distant, almost foreign. What happened to the way of the sword? You wonder, your gaze lingering on the eldest, the one who once idolized the sword like you did. Now he's poring over books, discussing trade and commerce with his younger sibling, who's just as engrossed in his studies. Warriors, huh? You think sarcastically. More like scholars and merchants. They've chosen their path, and it isn't the one you'd hoped for. They've rejected the sword, rejected the way you lived, and with it, rejected everything you once thought was important. Your eldest son, once so eager to learn the ways of combat, now talks about trade, the rise of merchants, the growing importance of knowledge and strategy. He talks about stability, about building something that will last. Your younger one, not content with just commerce, dreams of becoming a scholar, of writing and teaching, of finding new ways to think rather than fight. They're choosing a different path, you think, watching them with a mixture of pride and frustration. The world's changing, and I'm not sure I'm ready for it. You've spent your whole life learning to survive through battle, through the sword. But now, it seems the sword has lost its place. They don't need it, they don't want it, and maybe they're right. Maybe in a world where the power of the sword is fading, what matters now isn't strength but knowledge. Maybe they're smarter than I was, you think, with a hint of sarcasm. Maybe I should have learned to read instead of learning to kill. The thought stings, but there's truth in it. They've chosen a safer, quieter life, one that doesn't require the constant fear of death. And maybe, just maybe, that's the best thing for them. They've learned to build instead of destroy, to create instead of tear down. And that, you realize, is the legacy they'll leave behind. Not the legacy of a samurai, but of thinkers, of builders, of men who helped shape the future in a different way. A warrior's legacy isn't the only one that matters, you think, your voice tinged with irony. Maybe the world doesn't need more swords. Maybe it needs more minds. You look at them again, the pride swelling inside you despite the gnawing emptiness that comes with the loss of your old dream. They are your legacy, after all. Not the battles you fought, not the honor you once clung to. It's them. They're the ones who will change the world, not you. You realize now that this is the real legacy. You gave them life, and they'll live it on their own terms. I wanted them to carry on my name, my sword, my honor, you think, feeling a strange peace settle in your chest. But maybe the best thing I can give them is the freedom to choose their own path. Maybe they're right. Maybe their path is the one that will last. You leave them to their work, your footsteps soft as you step away. You don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long while, you're not angry. You're not bitter. You're just content. Your children are finding their way in the world, and they're doing it on their own terms. They rejected the sword, you think, your voice tinged with pride. But maybe that's the greatest legacy I can give them, a life without the weight of the blade. And in that moment, you realize that you've given them something far more valuable than you ever could have imagined. You've given them the chance to live, and to live without the burden of your past. The lessons learned, the legacy left behind, none of it matters when you face the battlefield once more. This fight, your last fight, isn't about honor. It's about closing the circle. It's winter again, the cold more biting than ever, the air thick with the smell of smoke and the anticipation of war. The siege of Osaka is about to begin, and for the first time in years, you find yourself standing at the gates of a castle once filled with dreams of glory, now reduced to a battleground. You never thought you'd be here again, fighting in a war you don't believe in, not for honor, not for loyalty. You thought you were done with it all, but here you are. One last battle, you think, the thought rolling around your mind like the weight of 100 lifetimes. Not for loyalty, not for honor, but to close the damn circle. The forces of Tokugawa Ieyasu are at your gates, and the samurai still loyal to the Toyotomi clan are ready to make their last stand. The castle looms ahead, surrounded by soldiers who have nothing left to lose. You've been here before, back when you were fighting for something bigger, something you believed in. But now it feels like it's all just a game where survival is the only victory that matters. You don't care about Tokugawa's rise. You don't care about the Toyotomi's fall. All you care about is the fact that you're here, standing in the cold with a sword in your hand, a face you don't recognize staring back at you in the reflection of your blade. The years have passed, and the man you once were, the samurai, the warrior fighting for something noble, feels as far away as a dream. Loyalty to the Toyotomi. You scoff quietly, watching the soldiers prepare. That was a lifetime ago. Now I'm just another man with a sword. Another soldier, nothing more. The thought is almost liberating. You've given up on all that idealism, all the bullshit about honor and duty. The samurai code feels like a joke now, a relic of a past that didn't matter. The world has changed, and you've had to change with it. This fight, this last war, isn't about any of that. It's about finishing something you started, something that's been haunting you for years. It's about stepping into the battlefield one last time, not to be a hero, but to simply put a period at the end of a long sentence. The castle walls are lined with soldiers, some young, some older, all waiting for the inevitable. The snow falls in thick blankets. the air sharp with the cold as you prepare. You don't feel fear. You don't feel anything, really. You've learned not to care about the outcome. All you feel is the strange weight of finality, the sense that you're watching the last act of a play you've long since lost interest in. This is it, isn't it? You think, eyeing the horizon. This is the end of it all. Not with glory, not with honor, just the last chapter, the last fight. No redemption, no heroes, just a bunch of men who couldn't let go of the past. The battle begins with the clash of steel against steel, the air filled with the screams of men fighting for their lives. You're part of the chaos now, but you fight not for the Toyotomi, not for any grand cause. You fight because it's the only thing you've ever known. You fight because you're still breathing, because you're still here, in this final war that doesn't matter to anyone but the men who've lived it. What am I even fighting for? You wonder as you slice through an enemy soldier, the dull thud of his body hitting the ground almost lost in the roar of battle. Loyalty? Honor? Or just survival? Hours pass, and the chaos doesn't stop. Men fall, blood stains the snow, and you find yourself in the thick of it. No longer thinking about who's winning or who's losing, just focused on surviving, just focused on making it through the next moment. You've done this before. It's the same song, just a different tune. And then, as the day drags on, you feel it. The weight of everything. The weight of your decisions, your mistakes, your past. The weight of being a man who has lost everything he once believed in, but still keeps fighting because that's what men like you do. You don't win. You don't lose. You just keep going. By the time the fighting slows, when the dust settles, and the soldiers around you begin to retreat, you realize something. This battle is just like the rest of them. Meaningless. Pointless. And I'm still here. Still alive. The Toyotomi lose, as you knew they would. The castle falls and the forces of Tokugawa move in victorious, as the world keeps spinning, as if nothing has changed. But for you, you're finally done. The circle is closed. Not with a bang, not with glory, but with silence. The final battle has been fought. The dust has settled. Now, you stand at the edge of the river, the weight of everything you've lived and lost pressing on you, but at least you're still here, still alive. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky with colours you've seen 1,000 times, but never quite like this. The cold of evening is creeping in, but you're not in a hurry to leave the banks of the Sumida River. You've made it through somehow. Survived the fall of Osaka, survived a lifetime of battles, of wars and lost causes, of hopes shattered and honour discarded. And now, here you are, alone at the water's edge, the city of Edo stretching out behind you, its lanterns flickering like 1,000 small flames in the dark. I made it, you think, the realization both bittersweet and ironic. I'm still alive, and that's more than I ever thought I'd be. You think back to where you started, back to the days when you were just a farm boy in Owari, dreaming of the sword, back to the time when you thought honor was everything, when the way of the samurai seemed like the only path worth following. You fought, you bled, and you lost more than you ever thought possible. You've seen the rise and fall of men, the decay of ideals, the erosion of everything you once held dear. A samurai, you think, staring at the water, the surface reflecting your face back at you, older now, more worn. I was one once, but I'm not anymore. I'm a ronin, a man without a master, without a purpose, but somehow I'm still here. You chuckle bitterly at the thought. You were supposed to die heroically, weren't you? Fighting for your lord, for honour, for something greater than yourself. But instead, you're here, alive, a ronin, with nothing but the weight of your past on your shoulders and the quiet hum of the river in your ears. I was born a farmer, you reflect, your thoughts wandering back to those early days, back to the dirt, the sweat, and the endless cycle of work. I became a samurai, fought battles I didn't choose, lost everything I thought I was fighting for. And now, I'm nothing but a ghost of the past, walking the streets of Edo with no place to call home. But there's something different now. There's no anger, no bitterness in your heart anymore. Just a quiet acceptance. You've survived. You've lived longer than most would have thought possible. The world has moved on, and maybe you've moved on with it. You've stopped chasing the idea of honor, stopped hoping for something that no longer exists. You've realized that surviving, living, that is enough. Maybe that's all any of us can do, you think, as the sun sinks further into the horizon. Maybe this, living, this is the real victory. You think of your children, far away in their lives, doing what you never could, living with purpose, choosing a different path. You smile, knowing that they've found something you never had, something stable, something meaningful. They've rejected the sword, but in doing so, they've chosen to live a life that isn't bound by the past, a life where they can define their own meaning without the shadow of the samurai code hanging over them. They're not bound by what I was, you think, feeling the weight of both regret and pride. They'll live on their terms, and maybe that's better than anything I could have given them. The river flows quietly beside you, its waters endlessly moving forward, never stopping. You watch it for a long while, as if waiting for some answer to emerge from the current. But no answers come. There's only the sound of the water, and the certainty that your time has passed. The world has moved on, and you've moved with it, in your own way. I was born a farmer, you think, the weight of the words settling over you like a final truth. I became a samurai. I fought. I lost. And now I die a ronin. But at least I lived as a man. You smile to yourself, the sadness gone, replaced by something calmer, something clearer. You're not sure what happens next, but you know one thing. You're no longer fighting. You've fought your last battle. Maybe, just maybe, that's enough. The last rays of the sun slip below the horizon, and the sky fades into darkness. You stand up, feeling the ache of old wounds in your legs, but it doesn't matter. You've lived. And as the stars begin to twinkle above the river, you walk away one step at a time, finally at peace with who you've become.